John Fredericks, America's Godzilla of Truth. He's popular and proficient in picking politics with prophetic precision. And now J-Fred's picking sports. Are y'all ready for this? All across the airwaves and streams of the John Fredericks Media Network, John, Jack, and Nate, three guys that are pretty wise when it comes to picking winners. Football, basketball, baseball, soccer, golf, UFC battles, you name it. When the game is on your mind and money's on the line, Godzilla Wins is your guide to picking winners. Before you make that play, hear what J-Fred has to say. Godzilla Wins on the John Fredericks Media Network.
Oh yeah, for entertainment purposes only.
All right, good morning and welcome to another edition of the Godzilla Wins Saturday Morning Picks Show. It is Saturday, August 19th here, 8:30 Eastern Time, 7:30 here in Mississippi. And we are excited to bring you another jam-packed show full of all our favorite sports. Hey, listen, if you love sports as much as we do, please go to GodzillaWins.com. That's GodzillaWins.com and check out all of your sports previews and predictions. We are gearing up for the football season. That's going to be a fun one. We've got a lot of college football coming up on the site and a lot of NFL coming up today. I'm here as always with the Godzilla of Truth, my father, John Fredericks, and our senior editor, Nate Perry. We're here with senior contributor Dan Angell for the first 30 minutes. We're talking college football. We're going to go through some of the preseason rankings. Then we're going to be joined by Daryl Wood from Colonial Downs. We're going to handicap some of the races out there in Virginia. Sheriff Clarke will stop by and we'll talk a little NFL. Kind of interested to hear about this Michael Oher story, get some people's thoughts on that as well. And we'll end, as always, with our UFC 292. Yeah, big UFC this week. Going to be a lot of fun. So stay tuned for the whole hour and a half. And if you are in a state where DraftKings is legal and available, go ahead and sign up right now. I was just on the DraftKings Fantasy app, which is available here in Mississippi. If you have an account, or if you don't have an account, you can sign up and use the promo code. Hey, this is the best promo code, easiest promo code to use. This is Godzilla. So go to DraftKings/sign up, promo code Godzilla, get you $5, get you $150 in free play on a $5 bet. So all you need to do is put $5 into that account or wager $5 on a new bet in a new account, and you'll get $150 in free play. That's just free money. We all love free money. We all love free money. So DraftKings.com/sign up, promo code Godzilla, $5 get you $150 in free play. Godzilla Wins and all its subsidiaries are for entertainment purposes only. If you have a gambling problem, call 1-800-GAMBLER, 1-800-426-2537 in Colorado, Illinois, Indiana, Louisiana, Maryland, Michigan, Nebraska, Ohio, Pennsylvania, Tennessee, Virginia, West Virginia, Wyoming. Call 800-327-5050. Visit gamblinghelpline-ma.org. In Massachusetts, call 877-G-HOPENY /text HOPENY 467-369 in New York. Call 1-800-NEXT-STEP in Arizona, 1-800-522-4700 in Kansas, New Hampshire, 888-789-7777. Visit ccpg.org in Connecticut, 1-800-BETS-OFF in Iowa, or visit opgr.org in Oregon. Please gamble responsibly. And remember, Godzilla Wins is for entertainment purposes only. I'm Jack Fredericks. I'm your host here for this Saturday morning. Welcome to the Godzilla Wins show. Welcome, panel. Great to see you guys.
Hey, it's good to be here.
Everyone.
Be here. Hey, just a quick thing before we get started. So I got to tell this story, right? So we're moving to Pittsburgh. So we're in Pittsburgh now. Obviously, truck's coming tomorrow, so we're in a hotel. So I leave Richmond yesterday, 1:00. I get in my car. I start it up, right? You know the little temperature thing that comes on? 98 degrees. All right, but it's got a hot one, right? Drive up 95, 81, 76, right? Get to Pittsburgh. Takes me a long time traffic. Get there at 10 o'clock at night. Open the door. 52 degrees. I had to dig through my bag to get a sweatshirt to put on to go from the car to the hotel. It was that cold. So, and the other thing I got to say, this is like a high-tech area. You'd think I was in San Jose. So I want to order something last night, and they have a robot that delivers your order. So you put it in, and the thing goes up the elevator. This goes up the elevator, goes to your door, you hear a beep, you open it, your room number is digitally displayed. You put your room key in it, you open up, the tray comes out, the whatever you ordered to drink comes out, you put it back in, and it goes back down the elevator. Check that out. Pittsburgh. High tech, baby.
Sounds a little like the robot bartenders I saw on my last cruise.
It's unbelievable.
Are you applying for a job at the Chamber of Commerce? Like, what's going on?
Me, Chamber? No,
you're just excited to be in Pittsburgh. Look, hey, welcome to the Northeast, right? Down here in Mississippi, I was playing golf yesterday in pants because that's what I was wearing, and it was like 6 o'clock. I got in my car, and the temperature read 104. So kind of jealous of the 50-degree weather. Not maybe so jealous of the robots. I'm not sure I could get a robot food delivery out here on the highway, but you never know. Maybe one day one will show up. And I feel like if someone saw a robot down the street delivering food where I live, they would shoot it. Probably almost immediately. It would just be, I mean, there'd be like 17 bullet holes in it. Some sort of witchcraft going on there. So, we might not know much about robots, but we do know a lot about college football. That's why we're going to start with our college football season preview here. Basically, what I want to do, y'all, is I just want to run through the top 25 preseason rankings and get some realistic expectations. I don't know if we'll get all the way down to the bottom, but once we get past like the top 10, we can kind of jump around and just see what you guys feel, because we did talk about some of these top teams a little bit last week, but we just kind of want to go through these rankings and say, okay, well, if I'm Penn State, for instance, or I'm Washington, what is like my realistic expectation? Because not everybody here is going to be playing for a national championship. So we'll start as always at the top with UGA down there in Athens. I'm going to start with Dan here. Dan, is the three-peat like the realistic expectation, or should they just be happy to be this successful at all?
I mean, with what Georgia has done on defense and with how soft the schedule is, I think a three-peat is a realistic possibility. I don't know if it's a realistic expectation. I'm thinking that a realistic expectation would be to win the SEC East. Winning the national title, certainly possible, but I think Georgia's some level of success would be winning the SEC East, getting back to Atlanta, and facing what's likely to be a really good Alabama or LSU in that SEC title game, and maybe getting to the playoff again.
And we'll talk about Alabama in a minute. Nick Saban looks really loose and happy, which is not a good sign if you have Alabama on the schedule this year. Nate, is the SEC East championship kind of where you see them? I mean, look, the SEC East has always been a little bit down considering like compared to the West, but with Tennessee this year, there's some real competition, or is it three-peat or bust?
I think it's probably three-peat or bust. I mean, like Georgia's just so much better than all the teams in the East. I mean, Tennessee's probably going to take a step back. Like everyone else is not very good. So I mean, the path to just make it to the SEC title game looks like almost like a lock, and I think winning the SEC is like very realistic for them to do again. I don't see any reason why not. I mean, they've already done it a couple times. Their path is so much easier. Dodging Alabama and LSU on the schedule is like super huge for them. So I think they make it back, no problem.
I think the three-peat, I mean, I'm not sure it's three-peat or bust. Like, it's so hard to keep doing this, but as far as where they're at, I mean, you got to be ecstatic if you're a UGA fan. 10 years ago, they were kind of stuck in this 10-2 range, and now all of a sudden they just keep replacing the best NFL players with the best college players. Their recruiting classes are incredible. So, okay, Dad, I want to start with you then from Michigan. Now, Michigan's ranked number 2. You're pretty high on them this year. 13-1 last year. Came pretty close. Is the expectation here a title game? Like how many more chances can you keep giving Jim Harbaugh?
No, he's got to he's got the best team he's ever had. He had a great recruiting class. He's built Michigan now. It's taken him a long time. He's, not gotten where they need to be, but on paper, this team looks powerful. I mean, they had a great season last season. A lot of the seniors, they graduated. They got backups in there that I think are going to be equally as good as better. They got speed on defense. They got powerful offensive line. They're going to move the football. I love their secondary, and I think they're gonna look. Big Ten is different, right? Everybody knows this is the Big Ten. Everyone's talking about SEC. Big Ten has got a lot of good teams in there. They got some good competition. They're gonna have to get through Ohio State. But I think in that championship game right now, I think Michigan's somebody. And look, you got to beat Georgia, right? The whole thing runs through the Dogs right now, so you got to beat Georgia. But I bet Michigan to win it all. I got like 8 or 9 to 1. I have to look back, but it was like 8.5 to 1. I couldn't believe it. I think this is going to be the best team in college football, and I'm still picking Michigan to win it all. Now they have to get through Ohio State, and the other thing is we don't know. How this realignment is really going to affect these teams because it increases their travel schedule. But Dan, I'm not sure who said this. Yes, next year. I'm not sure who said this, but it was somebody that said in the Pac-10, one of the coaches said, so instead of getting on an airplane for 2 hours to go to Louisville or somewhere, I get on a plane 5 hours and I go to Los Angeles. What's the difference? Well, there is a difference. It's called jet lag. Right? You don't get jet lag flying from, Columbus to Louisville. You get jet lag flying 5.5, 6 hours to LA.
That sounds exactly like that line about what's the difference sounds almost exactly like what Mike Luxley at Maryland said to me last year at Big Ten Media Day. But these coaches genuinely don't believe that it makes a difference. But you're right. It does make a difference. The human body doesn't adjust that well. And I think some of these teams are going to find that out the hard way next year. But for the time being, it's not a factor yet.
No, I don't. I think you're right about that. I don't think it's a factor either. Now, Dan, we got Michigan and Ohio State as number 2 and 3 here. And then we got Penn State as number 5. And you've covered the Big Ten in your career before. So like just out of those 3 teams, is it Michigan? Do they have the highest ceiling? Are they the biggest letdown? I mean, I'm kind of interested at Penn State at number 5. A lot of Big Ten teams up here in the top 5.
I think all 3 of them could reasonably make it to Indianapolis. It's just going to depend on can they handle the 3-game mini playoff against each other, and B, can they avoid stubbing their toe against a Maryland team that is pretty underrated and almost got Ohio State last year. If any of those 3 loses to Maryland, which is very possible, Maryland's not going to win the East, but they certainly could play a role. That could throw things into complete chaos. I think Penn State has the most value of the 3. I think Michigan is probably the safest pick of the 3, and Ohio State's certainly facing the most pressure.
Yeah, Nate. I mean, Ohio State's got to be facing the most pressure, right? I don't know though. I mean, you've always kind of been a Jim Harbaugh love him or hate him guy. I mean, I don't know. It does feel like Ryan Day up there at Ohio State is facing the most pressure. What do you think?
I don't even know if the idea that like Ryan Day is facing that much pressure, like after like basically a down season, like I think the real difference is that Harbaugh can finally play loose and coach loose for a change. I think that's like the bigger thing rather than Ryan Day being on the hot seat is like Harbaugh just suddenly feels like, oh my God, like it's working. And that must be awesome because Michigan does look good. Like I look at their schedule, the look ahead lines against Penn State, they're favored. Even on the road against Penn State late in the season, they're favored against Ohio State. Like there's a real path for them to go to just run the table in the regular season. At the very least, go 11-1. So I think that's the sort of bigger story to me is like, man, it must be awesome to be Michigan rather than like, oh, woe is me, Ohio State. Like Ohio State will be fine.
Well, I mean, I think Nate's onto something here. Harbaugh's always been under pressure. They've always underperformed. It's always like, okay, is this going to be it? Is he going back to the NFL? Whatever rumors are out there, but I think he's got a lot more. He goes into this season with high expectations, but not with the dog on his back. I think that's what Nate's saying. I agree with that.
Yeah.
I also agree with David. Look, Davies is on. You can't coach at Ohio State and collapse 2 seasons straight, especially with the Big Ten expanding next season. So I'm going to be betting I'm going to be fading Ohio State the first five games of the season because I think that when coaches get under pressure, it permeates through the whole team. And I think that's where Davies is now. Something about this Ohio State team, I don't like it. And I'm going to be fading it because a lot of times early in the season, guys, the books in Vegas, they're going to make lines, and there's a lot of public money coming in based on, the pedigree of the team, right? I mean, you kind of see that a lot early in college football. So I'm going to be fading Ohio State. I'm all over Michigan. And I'm going to be, look, a lot of these early games, remember at the beginning of the season, like Georgia would be, 19, they win by 50, right? Remember, 22.5 over somebody. They won 70-7 against Vanderbilt or something. So Georgia's a good take early in the season because they just blast through these lousy teams. They don't let up.
Yeah. Okay.
And you don't think Ohio State's going to cut through Indiana, Youngstown State, and Western Kentucky like a hot knife through butter?
Exactly. Yeah, that's my point.
Yeah, but
no,
you just said
you're fading Ohio
State. You're fading them.
I thought you're talking about Georgia. I didn't hear the teams. I'm going to be fading. I'm going to be fading Ohio State, and we'll see what happens.
Indiana, Youngstown State, and Western Kentucky.
Well, yeah, but they're going to be 40 points, 38. I'm going to be taking the dog.
It's 28.5 against Indiana in week 1. And after I saw the Hoosiers attempt to play offense for 4 quarters and fail miserably last year in Bloomington, I don't want any part of Indiana.
I'm taking the 28.
Look, the idea that these lines in Vegas are not sharp the first 5 games is absolutely the worst take in the world. Like, college football and NFL lines are so sharp. Like, you don't just get to be like, oh, well, early on, like the bookmakers are like not paying attention, and so you can just crush them with the dogs. Like, these guys, if the line is 28, Ohio State wins by 29 or 27. That's like how this stuff goes. That's why it's hard to do. So let's not go on the radio and tell everybody to just fade Ohio State for 5 games. I think Dan's probably right about Indiana.
Well, when I go 5-0, then you can, look, that's why we're all here. We all have different opinions. And I'm going to fade Ohio State, and I'm going to have a great season.
First game, granted, it doesn't know anything about these teams yet this year, but my numbers have Ohio State by 32 against Indiana in that first.
Okay, I'm taking Ohio State. Listen, Dad, one of the reasons that you're so sure about these bets is because you just get some incredible sleep with REM sleep. So tell our listeners how they can get involved with Healthy Cell and get some better sleep.
Hey, you know what? You look, I get up every day at 3:40 in the morning, and yet I come on, I'm fresh as a daisy. Now, I'm not going to bed at 7 o'clock. Nobody can do that, especially in the South. The sun's shining in. I get about 6 hours a night, but it has got to be a deep 6.5 hours for me to function the way I do in the morning. So the best thing that you could do, sleep is everything. I mean, you have to regenerate your body, all your cells reproduce. It's like the best thing, but you got to be in that deep sleep. This is what REM does. Go to healthycell.com, healthycell.com/Godzilla. Get REM sleep, put in promo code Godzilla. Promo code Godzilla, you're going to get 20% off your first order. The first night you take this, it's all natural. Comes in a gel pack. First night you take it, you're going to sleep, you're going to dream, you're going to get in that really deep sleep because it supports all 4 functions of sleep. I'm on it, Joe's on it, Angell, my whole family's on it. And I travel with it. I don't leave home without it. I panic if the box starts going empty. I hit the computer and order more because it puts you in that kind of deep sleep where then you get up and you're refreshed and you're ready to go and you have a great day. REM sleep, promo code Godzilla, healthycell.com.
Healthycell.com, promo code Godzilla. And that's just one of their products. You'll be hearing all about their products if you listen to this show. Throughout the show, we'll talk a lot about Healthy Cell. Now I'm going to play a little hopscotch here. We got about 10 minutes left. Let me give you some unrealistic expectations since I live in the South. UGA three-peat. That's what UGA fans want and expect. Bama national championship. That's Alabama fans and UGA fans are some of the most unreasonable people you will ever meet. They expect to win every year. Even when UGA wasn't winning every year, they were totally unreasonable. So we get them out of the way. LSU really trending upward. Another unreasonable fan base, and will I mean, they should be in the mix here, but I think if you're LSU, you're thinking SEC West, absolutely, maybe an SEC championship, and then you go from there. Now, FSU is kind of an interesting one, Dan. I mean, this is the highest ranked ACC team. The next highest ranked is Clemson at 14, who's lost DJU this year to Oregon State as a transfer. I don't know if that's a huge loss, but like, is FSU, is this a college football playoff type of year for them, or are they just happy to be back in the conversation?
I mean, we'll know after the first game against LSU. That is going to be an absolutely critical matchup for both teams. Both teams really need to make a statement that first game. And Florida State, I don't believe they're just happy to be back. I think they genuinely believe they're ready to win the ACC. They're ready to compete for the college football playoff. I'm not sure they're there yet. I think that those rankings really should be reversed. I think Clemson is the stronger team in the ACC. I expect Florida State to be there in the ACC final, but I think New Year's 6 is more realistic for this Florida State team. Next year, I think, is when they're going to be flirting with the playoff.
Well, and here's the thing with these rankings, these preseason rankings, it is a pretty nice little promo to have LSU number 6, FSU number 7 to open up the season. So and it's a thing where, okay, well, FSU loses by 2 touchdowns and they tumble a little bit, and everybody's like, yeah, well, LSU's so good. So, LSU number 6, FSU 25 just doesn't carry as much weight. And of course, it's the Florida State program. Let's go out West Coast, Nate. Look, you're a Lincoln Riley guy, all right? You like the Big 12. He's out there. He's out there in
Big
Los
12,
Angeles
baby,
trying to do his thing. I mean, this is, look, USC. This is like a, this is this a year where they need to break through, because they were close last year, but it's only Lincoln Riley's second year there. So, what do you think?
Yes, I mean, I don't know what to think about the Pac-12, and I can't tell, like, is everyone just, and I guess it's just like a thing that I've been thinking about, is like, anyone motivated to win the Pac-12, or is everyone just thinking like, oh, we're going to be gone soon? Like, who wants to be the last one?
I think they want
to.
Don't you want to be the team that wins the last Pac-12 ever?
I mean, I guess
I think Oregon State does.
Yeah.
Okay, I guess so. If we're just talking about USC, then I think that there are issues just looking at their schedule. I think that, like, they didn't do themselves any favors if they're really eyeing a college football playoff run this year, just based on the fact, like, they're the back half of their schedule on the road against Oregon and then playing Notre Dame. Like, that's tough, and I'm not sure if they can get the wins in a sort of quickly down or a rapidly plummeting Pac-12. I'm not sure if, like, you can stand to have 2 losses. Both of those games look losable for them. So in terms of, like, does USC look like they're going to be college football playoff team? No.
What's funny about the Pac-12 is this is a conference that we all have always made fun of, I think, for the last, 5-10 years since Pete Carroll left, basically. But they have USC is 8, Washington is 9, Utah is 11, and I think Utah's always overvalued, but I understand why they're 11. Oregon is 15 and Oregon State is 16. Now, Dan, you mentioned Oregon State earlier. I'm high on Oregon State. I'm high on them every year. They got DJU this year. So is Oregon State a team down there at number 16 that can make some noise and win the Pac-12?
Absolutely, they can. I mean, Oregon State is such an underrated program. Jonathan Smith is one of the most underappreciated coaches in the nation, and the Beavers just do not lose at home. I think they've only lost 1 home game in the past 3 seasons. And you look at the schedule, they don't play USC. Utah comes to them. Washington comes to them. And the only game on their schedule that's really tough that isn't going to be played in Corvallis is the Civil War against Oregon. So this schedule is really set up for the Beavers to make a run. As long as DJU can figure out how to play in this system, the Beavers have an excellent shot at making the Pac-12 title game.
He was such a mess last year, but I'm not totally sure that was his fault.
I agree. I think being closer to home will help him.
Yeah, I think so too. I think that this system is probably set up more for him if he can figure out how to be successful within that system. And I just think, the interceptions were such a mess last year, but that was a team that everybody thought would really overperform. They didn't, and they kind of got lost in the fray of those high expectations, and I think he felt a lot of that pressure. I think at Oregon State, he's going to feel really comfortable. And I mean, I made a lot of monopoly money with Oregon State last year because they were so undervalued, and they were like a cover machine. And I don't know if they're as undervalued this year, but they're still going to cover, I think, a lot of games, and I think win a lot of games. So, we'll see. I think some of these other Pac-12 teams are kind of overvalued. I mean, Washington is always right there, but I mean, the expectations like, okay, maybe you win the Pac-12. Utah, I'm done with Utah. I'm tired of listening to everyone say every year that Utah is good just to watch.
I agree with that. I'm so sick of them. I'm glad.
What are you going to do? That. They've won the Pac-12 the last 2 years.
They never go. You know what? Who's it? Let's go around the table. Who do you guys think? Jack brought up a good point, a really good point. Beavers last year undervalued every game, and if you bet them every game, you did very, very well. Undervalued. Who do you guys think is the most undervalued college football team, Vegas-wise, going into this season?
Texas A&M.
Yeah. Oh, why?
Because last year, everybody fell in love with the previous year's expectations, and Jimbo Fisher was even saying in preseason, next year is the year where we're really going to be good. They have the schedule. They're a year more experienced. I think it's really going to make a big difference, and A&M is a dark horse in the SEC West this year.
Yeah, speaks to Jimbo Fisher's leadership abilities when he's setting expectations in the current year for next year. That's the kind of leader we love in Jimbo Fisher. No team I hate more than Texas A&M. I despise them. I think it's a travesty that they're in my conference in the SEC. I can't believe I have to watch them play all the time. I hate that team, and I hope they lose every single game. And I'm telling, they're not like, I mean, Mississippi State, look, there's some respect there. I mean, like I've said this before, like, I wish they would get indoor plumbing down in Starkville, but other than that, like, I mean, I'm happy to have the Egg Bowl and the rivalry. But when it comes to Texas A&M and Jimbo Fisher, I can't even hold my ire. So if they're undervalued, then I hope you have fun.
So what you're saying is there's no robots in Starkville. That's basically what you're saying. Okay,
yeah,
so
there probably is. So
so
Nate,
Dan says Texas A&M. Nate, let's go. We got a couple minutes.
I mean, just sticking on the West Coast, since that's kind of what I just had pulled up. Like, I think that UCLA is going to be a lot better than people are giving them credit for. Particularly in a Pac-12, looks muddled and is always prone to chaos. Like, I think UCLA can emerge from that conference if things start falling apart for USC quickly. I don't see why not. So I like the Bruins.
Jack, who's your most undervalued team?
I can't even say it. Iowa, I think. They're just what an elite defense, and then they got Cade McNamara. I mean, and they suck. So like,
they still have Brian Ferentz. I'm sorry.
Yeah, I get it. I don't know. I mean,
I like talk about something that's not fun to watch, Jack. I mean, my God.
Yeah, dude.
And yeah,
life's too short to be watching Iowa games, man.
Like one of my friends is a huge Iowa fan. Iowa's thing is until the game is won, and I like to tease her with until a point is scored.
Yeah, that's about how it goes. Look, I mean, you gotta like defense. I like Texas. I mean, I don't know how undervalued. It's Texas, so like Texas, you always get a horrible spread. Dude. Yeah, I mean, but I don't know. I mean, like otherwise, then I like Tulane. I mean, I think Tulane is. Has a real shot of like running the table, and they do play some teams outside. It's just hard with them because they're going to be a big favorite in all their AAC games.
Once again, I have to come in and bail all your sorry asses out. Most undervalued team this season, Jack, you're going to find this to be a shocker, right? Ole Miss Rebels. Ole Miss is the most undervalued team. You cannot count Lane Kifflin out. Look, this guy takes incoming thrown golf balls at him in Tennessee. He's got that, and he's got that team. He's had a great recruiting season. I know you faded them in the 8-game thing, but you can win a lot of games this season on Ole Miss. They're going to be undervalued in that West. They're going to play all these teams tough, and they're going to cover a lot of games. So I like Ole
we'll
Miss is
see.
my undervalued team.
We'll see. We're coming up at the top of the hour. We're going to be talking to Daryl Wood here about the Colonial Downs races. Dad's going to be leading that for 15 minutes. Then we're going to get some NFL. We want to thank Dan Angell for joining us. As always, you can go to GodzillaWins.com, find all his writing. We'll be right back.
You're listening to Godzilla Wins on the John Fredericks Media Network. For a deeper dive without the jive, visit the website of winners, GodzillaWins.com. Let's get back to the show with the guys in the know, John, Jack, and Nate. It's Godzilla Wins on the John Fredericks Media Network.
All right, we are back here, the Godzilla Wins Saturday Pick Show. We're joined with Daryl Wood out there in Colonial Downs, talking about our the racing forum for the next 15 minutes. But Dad, before we do that, we got to talk a little bit about Rosie's Gaming Emporium and how people in Virginia can get involved with that and have a little fun.
Hey, I tell you what, you got to go to Rosie's Gaming. They got five locations in Virginia. You got Vinton by Roanoke, New Kent, where I'm based, right outside of Richmond there at Colonial Downs. They got Hampton. That's number 3. They're in Collinsville by Danville. Emporia soon to come. They've also got Richmond, South Richmond, right by our studio. And then don't forget Dumfries in Northern Virginia. They got a brand new hotel going up there. We're going to be doing our show from a week there when that thing goes. But if you want to have a lot of fun, they got the biggest if you're in Virginia, go to Rosie's. Biggest jackpots, biggest payouts anywhere in the country. They have the lowest take, so they get the bigger payouts, but you're going to have a lot of fun there. It is all about having fun. And then, of course, you can also go to Colonial Downs in New Kent. They race Thursday, Friday, Saturday, post time, 1:30. Go to rosiesgaming.com. And if you're a new player and you go there, you sign up for a card, you're going to get between $20 and $1,000 in free play. And when I signed up, I got $50 free play, right? You just sign in, you put your card, you spin the wheel, you're going to get a minimum of 20, maximum 1,000. So you got to go to rosiesgaming.com, rosiesgaming.com. Check all that out. One of our proud sponsors here. Hey, before Jack and Nate and everybody, we get into Colonial Downs, this just off the press. I just got this over the wire. The NBA, I can't even say this with a straight face, that little total freak, what's his name? Adam Silver, the little bald-headed freak guy, launching an investigation on James Harden because Harden apparently admonished the general manager, Daryl Morey, and put up on social media why he can't stand him. So as a result of that, I guess there's no more free speech. As a result of that, Silver's doing an investigation on James Harden, who says he wants out of Philadelphia. Yeah, I mean, you can't make this stuff up, guys. Then we'll get the Colonial Downs.
Yeah. Hey, so if you want to make the run sheets every week and email them out and host the show, go for it. But we're
just came over the wire.
Wood here. Yeah, it's not breaking.
Actually,
news.
it's Nick Hahn's with us.
Oh, I'm sorry. Okay. So Nick, we're going to talk Colonial Downs here with Dad in the racing forum. So go ahead.
All right, so Nick, I'm not there today because we're moving to Pittsburgh, but you know, on Saturday they had the biggest race there in Colonial Downs history. The day of racing, and they had the Arlington. They had a $10 million handle, which was the biggest in Virginia history. What was your what is your take on what Churchill Downs has brought to Virginia racing, and then we can talk about today's card.
Well, it was just a giant day. Gigante, a Virginia bred, comes back home and wins the Secretariat Stakes. That hadn't happened in the Virginia Derby ever. And then in the first running of the Secretariat Stakes, he basically stole the show. We had 2 grade 1s afterwards, and everybody was almost at a yawn because it was such a thrilling moment when Gigante won the Secretariat Stakes and as the longest shot on the board. You can't make this stuff up. This is a horse that actually here's one for you. I know you're not big on media probably on this show, and this is one where media has egg on their face, including me. We go through the week, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. I'm reading the recaps. I'm doing recaps. Everybody is mentioning that this horse is a Virginia bred, but you know what else he was?
What?
A Secretariat bred. He's actually got bloodlines that go back to Secretariat, and there's only a 30-foot statue of Secretariat in the parking lot, and nobody figures that out until Thursday morning. I mean, it's 5 generations back, but in the Secretariat Stakes on Secretariat Day in his home state, we kind of missed a little tie in there with Gigante being a Secretariat bred, and it was just with the governor being on site. With all the hard work that's been done, racing was dormant here, and to come back and have a record-shattering day. Here's another one that sort of gets lost. There's actually a Virginia bonus for horses that race in open company. Right. So while the purse of the race was $500,000, the winner's share $300,000. There's a bonus that's entitled $150,000 bonus because this horse is a Virginia bred. That's how big of a day it was. It was a home run. They set a track record, and the Arlington Million was set piece, a 7-year-old, and the Fev Rover gets an automatic bid to the Breeders' Cup Filly and Mare Turf in the racing afterwards. So it would have been a big day anyway. But that win by Gigante, I mean, that was just a showstopper right there. Just a complete win and just a great moment for Virginia racing.
Well, I tell you what, it's come, Nick, you and I have been following this for a long time. By the way, you can follow Nick on theracingbiz.com, the Racing Biz, that's B-I-Z, theracingbiz.com. He writes for that. He's been there forever. He's one of the best handicappers you're going to find in Virginia or in a lot of the Mid-Atlantic. But you look at the history of racing in Virginia, and many of us that have been there from the beginning, like you and I, that had to go through the Jacobs ownership debacle and now and then getting Peninsula Racing in there. Then it was dark for what, 3 seasons, a 3-year period dark. Then they came back with the horse racing slot machines, and now having been taken over by Churchill Downs, which was a shocker because they paid like, what was it, some enormous amount, $2.5 billion or something.
Multi-property deal, but yep.
I mean, it was a lot of money. I forget the exact amount, and they all cashed out. But when Churchill Downs took it over, I mean, there was a lot of trepidation because it's like, okay, is it going to go corporate? What are they going to do? It's the best thing that's ever happened to Virginia horse racing because these guys, I tell you what, these guys know what they're doing. I mean, they're in the business and they're very successful. But you think about it, on Saturday, Colonial Downs had a $10 million handle. Which was, and they're competing with Saratoga right in the middle of the summer, right? Which is the big one.
Oh, their handle is up. They went from Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday when they were racing in a little bit of a void to Thursday, Friday, Saturday. And their handle is actually up over last year at this point. The $10 million handle, it shattered handicapping records at Colonial. They set the record last year somewhere, I want to say it was between 5.6 or 6.5 million. They beat it by a third. Yeah. And on a day where they're honoring Secretariat on his 50th birthday, on his 50th anniversary of winning the Triple Crown, I can't describe how big of a day it was and what a big moment. This is the first time when you had the Virginia breeding industry meeting and intersecting with the Virginia racing industry. We've seen great horses race at Colonial Downs, not necessarily Virginia breds. We've seen great Virginia breds, Bodie Meister, Stellar Wind, race across the country, never in our home state, not like this. So it was just a great intersection of Virginia racing and breeding. It's really, it'll be a pivotal moment where everything sort of got put together looking back through history.
Well, it was quite the week there, and we're looking forward to the Virginia Derby on September 9th. I'm out next week, so if you go to my suite, we still got all our studio thing there, but I got to go to Milwaukee for that debate thing, so I won't be back, and I'm moving. But today's card, I'd have a chance to look at it, Nick, because obviously I'm moving. Today's card, give me your one best bet and two best bets for today at Colonial Downs.
I've been struggling in every wager except the double. The doubles are just keeping me so much alive. I've been really doing well on those. So that's where I'm going to stick with here. I'm going to go to the second race, which is the first race on the turf. And I like a Michael Stidham horse by the name of Yamu and Work Hard. I'm going to put those two horses together, and I'm going to put it with a horse by the name of Just Deal With It and actually See My Mister. So See My Mister, actually my top pick. I'm going to put, so you have it at home, 2-4 with 1-7 is the double play today. And that I have been cashing the double tickets. It's the second one in a row that I've cashed was yesterday. So hoping to keep that streak going.
So if you do that, you're basically playing a daily double box in the first two races, 2 and 4 with 4 and 7. So you're basically playing 2-4, 2-7, 4-4, 4-7. So people know what that means.
Right. This will be a double. So you basically get two horses in the second race. One of them has to win. Only one can win. I guess you could have a dead heat. But Yamu and Work Hard, the 2-4, and then you have to have actually I think I have the 5-7. I think I said that wrong. The 5-7 Global Sensation and See My Mister in the third leg. So one of those horses have to in the third race, I should say, in the second leg of the double. But
so if I were to ask you just your straight up best bet today, what would it be?
I'm going to go with See My Mister, the 7 horse in the third race. Antonio Gallardo is the leading rider of the meet right now. That's been an interesting chase as they sort of seem to be taking turns in terms of who's the rider with the most number of wins. It was just sort of going back to last week. You had Shug McGahee win 2 races. You had Mark Casse win 3 races. But yet it was 0 for 21 Steve Asmussen that gets the big win with Gigante and at the big price, the longest shot on the board. So Antonio Gallardo, they're going back to him. He's the leading rider of the meet right now. He's having an excellent meet. And so that's why I have that as my best pick of the day. No stakes races today, a little bit of a layoff. And then we have the nominations for the Virginia Derby coming out next week. Gigante should be coming back for that race. We have the Kitten's Joy, which is also on that card. September 9th, if you missed August 12th, you missed a lot, but you get a second chance September 9th with Virginia Derby Day. It's going to be equally a big day.
Well, we're gonna be there live, and that's so. Your best bet today. See My Mister. Race again? What
race 3, 7 horse in the third race.
All right,
See
you
My
got
Mister, a Bodemeister.
Nick Hahn, I want to thank you. Thank you for being with us. You can follow Nick, and if you need off-track betting, no problem at all. You can go to DraftKings horse racing there. You can go to Twin Spires based on the state that you're in. So there's a lot of options there. Nick loves number 7, See My Mister in the third race. You got his double pick as well. For all Nick's picks, I follow him. Go to The Racing Biz, B-I-Z, theracingbiz.com. Nick, great to have you with us, man.
Thank you.
Back to Jack.
Sorry, I was muted. Thanks, Nick. So you can also find The Racing Biz on Twitter at the Racing Biz. That's B-I-Z. They got a lot of great content there if you're into horse racing, which is really kind of exploding. I mean, even like DraftKings is really trying to invest a lot in building out some of their horse racing ability. And if you have been following horse racing, like mobile gaming with horse racing for a long time, it used to be a little bit of a disaster when they first legalized this stuff to try to put in a ticket not at a window, but even in the casino you got it's always been kind of difficult. So it's nice to see DraftKings invest in that. But yeah, you can go to the Racing Biz at the Racing Biz and find them on Twitter or on at their site for publication. We want to thank Nick as always for joining us, and we want to thank Colonial Downs as well. Now, Dad, I just went to grab some more coffee here, and I got to tell you, I got my Beard Vet coffee. I got my Beard Vet mug. Some of the best coffee I have ever tasted. And listen, if you are into good coffee, and we're talking whole bean, I know you do the Keurig, Dad. You can get them ground up. They have Beard Vet, and you go to beardvet.com. Beard Vet has some of the best coffee at the most reasonable prices. And not only that, Dad, what's the promo code we can get here to get that 10% off?
Godzilla is going to give you 10% off. So just go to beardvet.com, a proud sponsor of Godzilla Wins. Even better than that, even though, look, the coffee's the best. I mean, I travel with it. I'm having it now. I'm in a hotel. They got the Keurig here. I would never drink the stuff that they put in the hotel room. I can't deal with it. I got my Beard Vet. I fired up. I'm ready to go. Just go to beardvet.com, 10% off Godzilla. Now, a portion of whatever they make, these guys are vets. A portion of whatever they make goes to support veterans organizations. And but if you love coffee, and you know, I don't do the Starbucks thing. I can't stand that stuff. The swizzle sticks, and I just want a cup of coffee, right? I can't deal with it. Lattes and steamed cream. Well, I don't know, whatever the hell that is. I just want a cup of coffee. Beard Vet is the way to go. Beardvet.com. Promo code Godzilla. You wouldn't catch me. You wouldn't catch me to Starbucks dead. It's not for me. Beardvet.com.
Yeah, look, I mean, if you just want a cup of coffee, Beard Vet, beardvet.com. I mean, they should put that on the website. John Fredericks, I just want a cup of coffee. Beard Vet.
That's right. I want a cup of, I'm from New Jersey. I want a cup of coffee. I don't want a whizzle steak and cinnamon and lattes and whatever else they
put. A simple cup for a simple man.
Mucho, or just give me a cup of coffee.
Right. Because Italians in New Jersey have never had a cappuccino, but okay. But I understand what you mean. We're here with Sheriff David Clarke for the next 15 minutes, talk a little NFL. I've also got a little news story I want to talk about. Sheriff, I added this to this segment because we always love your insight on some of these topics here. So I'm just going to sort of set it up for our audience, and then we'll go around the horn. If this is all we talk about in the next 15 minutes, that's totally fine. It is kind of an interesting story, or maybe it's not. I mean, I was walking the dog today, and I thought, I don't even know how interested I am in this, but this is basically what's going on. So Michael Oher this week, it came out, he announced that he is suing the Tuohys. Now, Michael Oher he's a Super Bowl champion, a NFL lineman, and his life story is what inspired The Blind Side, both the book by Michael Lewis, who is an incredible writer and a good journalist, and the movie with Sandra Bullock that earned her an Oscar that kind of took the culture by storm back in the day. This would have been about like 2010. The movie would have come out later than that, something like that, but around that time. And basically Michael Oher is claiming that the Tuohys, who took him in during his senior year while he was already at Briarcrest High School, which is a private school, they took him in and he lived with them their senior year. They adopted him, or so they say, quote unquote, adopted him. So Michael Oher thought, and then they helped him, I guess, go to Ole Miss, where Sean Tuohy's a huge booster, and then off to his career. Now, Michael Oher claims in this new lawsuit, which he filed in Shelby County, Tennessee, that they never adopted him, which they didn't. They were a conservator, and that not only that, but they told him they adopted him, and they have withheld any type of movie rights. So any of the subsidiaries that the Tuohys have received from a movie that made $300 million, Oher claims he hasn't gotten. Now, the Tuohys fired back. As if you live in this area, you knew the Tuohys were going to fire back. And what the Tuohys said were he knew about the conservatorship, and they did that for economic reasons, and they did it to get him into college, and that they haven't really received that much money from the movie, that whatever money they have received is pretty minuscule. And that not only that, Michael Oher contacted them before he came out with this lawsuit and said, if you don't give me money, I'm going to come out with some dirt on you. Who knows if that's true? This is all allegations. So you got Oher on one side, you got the Tuohys on the other. Little family drama, I suppose. Michael Lewis, who wrote The Blind Side, came out and he said, listen, I haven't received a lot of money for this movie. The Tuohys haven't received a lot of money for this movie. We should be blaming Hollywood. This is a Hollywood issue. The producers, whatever, they took the $300 million, they kept it, and whatever money anyone has received has been pretty minuscule. So it's a whole big mess. And I'm not even sure if it's that newsworthy, but Sheriff Clarke, I just kind of want to get your thoughts, and we'll go around here. Is this something that we should be like, should we care about this or not? I guess is my question.
Jack, you already took up more time than you should on this story for this segment. We're supposed to be talking football. It's not a football story. Now, I've heard of the situation, but it's a soap opera, and it hasn't captured my imagination. I haven't followed it. Most of what you said, I was aware of because it's kind of hard to escape it. But no, this is. I think it's shameful. I think it's sad, really, on all parts there. Soap opera stuff. I can't get into this story.
Well, I'm going to weigh in, and I don't agree. Jack, I think your journalistic instincts are getting better. I'm glad you brought this up.
Ooh.
Those of us that watch this movie, I've watched it 15 times, maybe 20. It's one of my favorite movies, along with Remember the Titans. I love this movie. I love the inspirational story it brings. I loved everything about it. And you and I have seen it together, and certainly with your sister and Joe seen it many times. And so it's a heartwarming story, and Sandra Bullock did a phenomenal job. Having said that, this guy's got plenty of money. I mean, he was in the NFL. He played for the Ravens. It's sad because I don't know what the circumstances are, but the author, to me, the guidepost here is the author of the book, Lewis, who said, hey, this is what I wrote was true. Look, they took the kid in and they showed him love. They loved him. And this is what happens now, and you're shaking me down for $10 million. They brought you in your home. They loved you. They helped you. I don't know. I don't know the circumstances of it, but I do know when a family brings a stranger in and they show him that amount of love and they take him in off the basically and give him a home. And then there's this great movie about it that is inspired. Hey, Michael Oher, how about the millions of people that inspired? You know, come on, dude, right? I mean, you had a great career in the NFL. You had a great career with Ole Miss. Why are you doing this? I mean, is the money important? I mean, it's just sickening to me. I mean, come on, man, stop. Just stop.
So the money is important. I'm not a journalist, so I don't know what the journalist instinct column is. I will say, as someone who's not a journalist, I've never watched The Blind Side with you, so I don't know where that came from. I saw it once in theaters and thought,
well,
whatever.
Look, I'm sorry, Jack. I'm sorry. I've seen it 15 times. I guess your brother and sister have seen it with me.
Yeah, sure.
I forgot that you hadn't. Yeah. So why don't we not go down that path? Okay. Because I've seen it 15 times. I love the movie. Period.
Jack, you should sue him for saying that.
Yeah, for real. Listen, so like, here's the thing. The Tuohys are like they do not have a good reputation at all as people in that area. They just don't. Now, the issue has always been with them, and there's a story, and I'd recommend y'all go check out Josh Levine. He works for Slate, and in 2010, around that time, he wrote a story about this, and he said, hey, listen, what's really interesting is that Michael Oher is not a singular case. There are a lot of very, extravagantly wealthy people like the Tuohys are, who take in very talented athletes and possibly guide them to a college where they are a booster. Now, in 2010, now I think we feel a little bit more like, hey, listen, this is the game. Like, everybody's trying to win football games. But back then, that wasn't really the case. And so it's always been kind of an open secret that Sean Tuohy, who is a huge Ole Miss booster, really influenced that decision to go to Ole Miss. Ole Miss was a train wreck of a program back then, and they did get better with Oher, who was a singular talent. Phil Fulmer at Tennessee was recruiting him hardcore, and I think probably that would have been a better decision for him. The other thing, and I've been following Michael Oher forever because he went to Ole Miss. I was at school with him, and the thing about him is he has always complained about the movie's depiction of him as like simple, I guess. And so I think a lot of this has to do with, and he's not. He was at Briarcrest as on an academic scholarship. So it's not like the movie kind of seems to suggest that he was walking around the streets and maybe was at the school or not. And then Leanne Tui brought him, like plucked him out of a lineup or something. I mean, he was at that school on an academic scholarship. He came from a rough life. That's absolutely true. The Tuis, he has always been grateful for the Tuis and their decision to bring him in that year. But he's always taken issue with that.
It's called love. It's called love. That's what it's called. Love, right? And this is what we're missing in this whole thing. This is what's the matter with everything going on in this world. They brought him in and they loved him. Okay, that matters. That should matter, right? Somebody brought me in and they loved me, and in a time where I needed that. What now? I'm going to turn around and shake him down for $10 million. Give me a break.
Okay. All right. Well, let's move on.
Kaepernick did something similar.
Yeah. Let's move.
He didn't sue his adopted parents, but he threw them under the bus.
Yeah, and
exactly.
I mean, like I say, I mean, this is something that a lot of athletes in the college system are kind of in this situation. So, okay, I think like Sheriff Clarke, I kind of agree with you. I mean, I put it on the run sheet and I thought this is kind of, I don't know if I care about this enough to talk about it, but we just did, so whatever. Let's go on and talk a little bit about some preseason thoughts, because I got some on the Falcons. Not that anyone cares about that. That's like, might as well just talk about, or if we're going to talk about the Atlanta Falcons. But let's start, Sheriff Clarke, with you. The preseason is underway. I know we probably don't take too much stock in it, but you love the Cowboys. Just some reactions here going into the season on what you might see from the Cowboys.
Well, 23 days, I think it is, from the opening weekend in the NFL. I think the Cowboys are ready. The reason I say that, not just cliche, is they've had a couple scuffles in training camp this week, and high-spirited. And basically, one of their starting defensive backs said, "We ain't taking SHIT from nobody," and that includes our offensive line. I like that kind of attitude. They're hungry. The defense knows they have a chance to be elite, but they know they're going to have to show it on the field. They can't just be talked about in that realm that they're elite defense, they're a great defense. They have to show it. Offenses always start slow in the NFL the first couple of weeks because they don't play the starters. Most teams don't play the starters in the preseason games. So the defenses are usually ahead in the first couple of weeks. And then once the offenses catch up, though, they take off. So, I'm patient. I don't wish the season started tomorrow because the season goes fast anyway. So I'll wait. But the big thing is to stay healthy. They haven't had any serious injuries. They haven't lost anybody for the season, due to an ACL or an Achilles or anything like that. So, I'm in a good place. I'm in a good place with this team. I'm in a good place with the roster they're going to put together. And I think they're going to have, and I'm usually not like this. I'm usually the pessimist with my teams, like the Cowboys, like the Cubs, like Duke. I love these teams, but I'm a pessimist in terms of what they can do. So I'm in a good place.
Yeah, it seems like you have been in a good place. You've been blowing us up on the text thread with a lot of Cowboys news. So I think you're
very much.
You're absolutely locked in here. I think
a lot of memos.
Look.
A lot of memos to Nate. He's still
right.
Yeah, so many memos to me. I do not share your optimism, obviously.
Well, Nate's just a Debbie Downer. I mean, look.
Okay.
You're just a Debbie Downer on the Cowboy. I love getting the sheriff's updates, and I think and so they're fighting. I like the fights. I like McCarthy. I mean, the sheriff sold me on Dallas on those on that thread he's got going. I'm sold on him. I think they're going to be. I think they're going to win the division.
Well,
No.
that's optimistic there. If Dad thinks you're going to win, you might want to run the opposite direction. Look, I got an employee at a coworker at where I work who's a Cowboys fan, and I tell him every year there is nobody more confident than a Cowboys fan in August. So, we'll see how that goes. when we hit October, maybe Sheriff Clarke will be singing a different tune. I once saw Nate chuck his phone at a wall at a bar after a Cowboys blowout. A Cowboys loss, like, I don't know, that was probably 5 or 6 years ago. I
That
mean,
was the playoffs. It was Aaron Rodgers.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, I mean, I'm prone to emotional outbursts, but Nate's not. And I mean, I was like, wow, Nate. I mean, he threw his phone at a brick wall in the middle of a crowded bar. So look, it's tough.
I turned that game off, Nate, after the first quarter, and I didn't turn it back on. I mean, they were down like 21-0 in the first 6 minutes of the freaking game. So I didn't even see the comeback, but I'm glad I didn't watch the rest of it. I didn't have to chuck my.
Well, if you stayed the whole time, you might have understood my emotions.
Yeah. Look, I mean, I understand. Now, Dad, you got to be pretty confident about Tennessee, right? Although you've been tempering everybody's expectations, talking about the Jags. So what do you think? You
I'm fired up. I am so excited about this season. First of all, I'm excited about a couple of things in the AFC South, right? Because obviously, if you're a Titans fan, you have to play these teams twice. I don't think the Colts are going anywhere, but I think they made a great decision in starting Anthony Richardson. Go for it. Let's see what the guy's got. I think it'll be exciting to watch. And we don't know how good this kid is for Indy, but I think it's going to be exciting. But I love my team this season. I think we're playing that practice thing with another team. They're playing with Minnesota. Our defense has been absolutely suffocating. The Titans could have the best defense in the AFC. Run and we got some guys in the secondary now. We got a pass rush going. We got Tannehill's back. He's fired up. Henry's healthy. Treylon got a little injury with his tendon, but it's not ACL, so he's going to be back. We got the big receiver from the Cardinals.
Hopkins.
Offensive line refurbished, courts out. No one knows what's going to happen, and that's going to be the key to this team. But look, you're in the AFC South. It's not like you're in the NFC Central East, right? Or you're in the AFC West. You beat Jacksonville one game, you're gonna win the division. So that's all you got to do. I'm excited about my team.
John, I think you've been dipping into the psychedelics a little bit. You and Aaron Rodgers sound like you've had a few magic mushrooms this morning, talking about they're going to have the best defense in the AFC.
Yeah, they are. Mark my words. You're going to have the best defense in the AFC, not the NFL. AFC best defense. This team is really good. I mean, you guys are making fun of them. That's fine. But
nobody's saying
they're just not going to be the best defense.
Nobody is saying that when you're saying.
So
I'm pumped.
So look, they it took me a while to scroll. I just brought up ProFootballNetwork.com best defenses for the 2023 season. The Titans are currently ranked 22nd. So
they don't know. You know what? They don't know crap, right? They don't know gots.
Unless there's 21 teams in the NFC, I don't think they're going to be the best defense in the AFC. But I guess we'll see. It's always good to be optimistic about your chances in
I'm
August.
Fired up.
Yeah, it seems like you are. So Nate,
completely unfounded.
Yeah, completely unfounded. So Nate, I threw in the Seahawks here for you. What do you think? You've been watching the Seahawks preseason?
I haven't watched it. I think that I'm done with the Seahawks, but I always, man, after last year it was so emotional, right? I think the Seahawks are going to be really good. I mean, I think that, so Geno Smith is like a known commodity now, right? Like we know that he's like good. We know what he brings to the table now. And all they did was build the offensive around him, add dynamic receivers, running backs are coming back healthy. The defense upgraded. Like, I think that the Seahawks are a real team. I think that it's unfortunate they play in the NFC West against the 49ers because I'm not sure they can win that division. But I think they're going to be good. I think they're going to be as exciting as last year. I don't think 10, 11 games is unreasonable.
They were our big undervalue team last year. So, we'll keep talking about them because I think next week, maybe what we'll do is get on here and just like Dad had a pretty good idea about the college football, just kind of talk about our like best undervalued team. Maybe we can do that with the NFL, but the NFL is so much harder because it's hard to find the diamond in the rough unless you're just real. Maybe the first couple weeks you could find one, but it can be kind of difficult. So I'll talk about the Falcons for a minute, then we'll get to our UFC stuff because I've been, following. I don't know why I'm talking about the Falcons. Nobody cares, but they're my team. So I've got some notes here on their preseason game against the Bengals, which they tied 13-13. Bijan Robinson, their first pick, who they took over Jalen Carter, which has been, I don't know if that was the right decision, but he looked pretty solid in that game. That was the first game he played. The wide receiver core looks okay. They had a ton of penalties that game, a bunch of pre-snap stuff, which one thing about the Falcons, they were the lowest penalized team last year. It was one of the only bright spots in the team that really struggled to do pretty much anything. But I think that'll probably get ironed out. I mean, a lot of that was like Chris Lindstrom had 2 holding calls, which he's an all-pro, one of the best offensive linemen in the game. So I don't really have much of an issue with that. The defense looked okay. I mean, you just never know in preseason. They made a bunch of signings, so we'll see. And the big question with them is it going to be Taylor Heineke or Desmond Ridder? And Ridder looked pretty accurate. 15 passes, 7 for 9 for 80 yards, which I don't know. He's just not that accurate. I mean, I'm gonna be honest with you. Like, he just throws it into the stands all the time. It feels like. So I'm not totally sure that I'm sold on Desmond Ridder here being the future. But if all you're doing is handing the ball off to like 16 different running backs and throwing screen passes, just like the Titans do with Tannehill, who I actually think does have some explosive possibility. Not exactly Tua, but he can get the ball downfield. But if you're just throwing those screens, I don't know how accurate you need to be. But the Falcons did what the Falcons always do. They went down the field, they controlled the drive, and then Desmond Ridder threw a pick in the end zone. So that's what the Falcons do. I'm glad to see that they're still doing that. They're still practicing turning the ball over. There's something to be said for consistency. Yeah, for real.
Right? So
I'm all over the Saints at over 9.5. I think the Saints can win 10 games this year.
Well, they're going to lose their home opener
yesterday. I don't believe that.
They're going to lose their home opener. So it's really like you got what, 16 games to win 10. So they got to go 10-6 because the Titans are going to go in there and beat them, especially without their running back who's suspended in that game. So I don't like that bet.
Hard to
Nobody
win.
Does. That's what I'm saying.
I knew they were playing the Titans when you started saying they're going to lose week 1, because the idea that you knew other team's schedule well enough to be able to throw that out there was.
I only know my team's schedule.
I just knew you were bringing the Titans. I know you only know the Titans. All roads lead back. We're starting early.
That's all I follow. I don't worry about the other team. I just follow them. We're playing them, right? Then I start looking at the schedule. I start looking at the teams that we play, and the other games I just bet on Sunday afternoon. That's about it.
Yeah, that's a super good strategy when you have a radio show about picking all the games and you're only following.
Hey, you know what?
Yeah.
When I start picking winners again, I've had a great 3 seasons. Didn't do as good last season as I've done. I was a little bit in the hole, not much. I came back towards the end. But look, when we do the competition again and I win again, and you're all there crying your eyes out again because the old man beats you millennials with all your AI intelligence and all your cell phones and your supercharged computers and the glasses with the cameras on them, whatever the hell you guys got. I just picked the games to win, right? So you guys to take all your AI crap and all that stuff at the end of the season. The old man is going to win again because I'm old school. That's what wins. That's how you pick football. Old school. I'm telling you.
The robot that delivered your food probably picks games better than you.
We'll see.
Sheriff Clarke, we're gonna get out of here in a minute, but I know you got your Longhorns hat on, so I just we were doing college football a little earlier. You got high expectations on the Longhorns this year. They say Arch Manning's looking good.
No, he's not going to start though. I'll temper my enthusiasm with the Longhorns. They start out, I think they're at Alabama. That's a hard one. They got 2 really tough games in the early stages. They should win the Big 12, But that starting off at Alabama, you start off 0-1. It's hard to be, start talking big things about the Texas Longhorns. So I don't know. I think you'll see the usual teams near the top: the LSU's, the Alabamas, the Georgias, the Ohio State, Michigan. I think Texas is like ranked 12th. So I'll temper my enthusiasm for now.
Yeah, they're around there. I don't know. I mean, look, they almost beat Alabama last year, but that was at Texas, so it's a whole different type of thing. Quinn Ewers is, back. He's healthy, so I think we'll see. I like them, but you're right. It's difficult schedule. Then they're going to the SEC after that. Well, listen, we want to thank Sheriff Clarke as always for joining us, talking NFL Cowboys. We're gearing up for that season. It should be a lot of fun. We're going to start in September doing 2 hours of the show. 1 hour is going to be college football. The extra hour is going to be NFL. So we're going to have a lot more time than just 15 to 20 minutes to talk about our favorite teams and the different lines and the different angles. So thank you, Sheriff Clarke. You can find him on Twitter. Just type in Sheriff and it's going to be the first thing that comes up. So
let's go Cubs.
Thank him as always.
Oh, yeah, man. Right. Tough one last night, man. You can't lose to the 40-87 Kansas City Royals in Chicago. Can't do it.
I feel your pain.
Be well.
All right,
thanks,
Sheriff.
Clarke.
Bye-bye. Hey, by the way, before we go, Sheriff Clarke filling in for me on Monday on the John Fredericks Radio Network, 6 to 10 a.m. Sheriff Clarke, tune him in. He'll be filling in for me on Monday as I got to do my moving honey-do list. Sheriff, thanks for being there for us Monday. Thank you.
My pleasure.
All right, thanks, Sheriff. We're going to go now to our fight guy, senior UFC analyst here, Patrick Assalone. We're going to talk UFC 292. Actually, like a lot of fun, this UFC 292. This is a big pay-per-view, I think. Sterling versus O'Malley. Before we do that, though, Patrick, we got to talk targettrading.co. Targettrading.co. Tell us your wins and losses here.
Last week, 77 wins, 21 losses, 15 break evens. Damn good week again. Anybody who would like to, bring some more money in, secondary cash flow gig, learn to trade. And I know it always comes with risks, but so does everything. If you really, really want to take a risky chance trading, go trade stocks. Watch yourself blow up quickly against the most horrible freaking banksters on the planet where, trust me, they make the rules and they're not to help you out.
So targettrading.co, if you're interested in unlocking your financial future and having a little bit more freedom in the decisions that you can make with your life, just go to targettrading.co. You can find Patrick and co there. You can watch some virtual tours. You can get in touch with them and they will teach you. This is education. This is what I teach. Not this particular, this is what I do 5 days a week. I educate people on all sorts of different things. So look, this is education. Go to targettrading.co. That's targettrading.co and sign up today. Start unlocking that financial future. All right, Patrick. Listen, let me ask you guys this because we got about 15 minutes here. Do you want to just do the 2 title bouts and skip?
Yeah.
Let's
do the 2 title bouts because how Magny and this other cat are even on this card is beyond me. I think it's a space filler. They're not even worth talking about.
Yeah, I kind of feel the same way. Like I don't even think they're in the top 10, so it's kind of a weird fight. I know Magny kind of stepped in to fill a spot there.
Late notice.
Yeah. So it's late notice, and those fights are always hard to handicap anyway. So let's start with the strawweight title bout here, the women's strawweight. Zhang Weili and Amanda Lemos. I'm sure I'm butchering both of those names. So Patrick, we've got Zhang Weili, who is defending her strawweight belt, Lemos, who's the challenger. One of the things I want to ask you just right off the bat is Weili, who's a really interesting fighter, has I guess a Sanda background, Wushu Sanda. Can you explain to the audience, because we talk a lot about Muay Thai and Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, but we've never talked about Sanda. So can you explain kind of to the audience what the differences is and how she can how she utilizes that in her fighting style?
It's primarily a stand-up discipline. But it's not just the stand-up part. She's just all around better everywhere. Her striking from a lot of the Sanda is very unorthodox, but then really slips into the Muay Thai. The elbows, the knees standing right in front of you, controlling the hell out of you. So she's using the Sanda stuff to actually, in my opinion, to create these distractions while she gets inside and starts throwing the heavy artillery with the knees and the elbows. She's got ferocious control on the inside. And here's the problem, Jack. You haven't grown up in Brazilian jiu-jitsu gyms long enough to get these pronunciations down. So it's Lemos. Okay, so that's just the way it is. It's not your fault. And trust me, not spending time in those gyms, you've missed nothing. Trust me when I tell you this. Okay. I think that Weili is absolutely better everywhere. She's physically stronger. She's fought better competition. And everybody's going to say that Lemos has got this brutal striking. She absolutely does. And if you ask me, stand up, she's much, much cooler than just about anybody else I've ever seen, man or woman combined. She sits there. She is extremely good at judging distance of strikes. But I think Weili has just got way too much for her. Striking wise, I think they're just as good. And then everywhere else, Weili wins this fight.
Yeah, Nate, I'm really with Patrick here. There's going to be a lot of chaos when they kind of are both standing up because their styles are, they both are pretty stand-up styles of fighting here. I think Lemos does not really want to get it to the mat because Weili is so good on the mat. Is this an opportunity? I mean, sometimes you like these big dogs in these spots. Is this a spot for Lemos, or are we just waiting for Weili to kind of close inside the distance and win in the clinch?
I think this is definitely an upset spot that I kind of like for Lemos. I mean, she's got a little bit of a reach advantage, which will be huge. And I don't see, I mean, you know, obviously it's two sort of very different striking styles, but I just don't see Lemos being at that much of a disadvantage just in terms of just like being able to trade striking. I think that, you know, sort of counter striking game will be effective here against Weili, who's pretty aggressive and also like fairly hittable. You know, she takes a lot of shots. She takes a lot more shots per minute than Lemos does. And she throws quite a few more. So I think that there will be opportunities for Lemos to sort of counter with her, to sort of speak to Patrick's point. You know, she's cool in the pocket. You know, she can handle it. She can sit there and trade. She's not going to freak out. And I think that, so all things being equal, just looking at them thinking, all right, like Lemos can hold her own on the ground or, you know, standing up. Unless Weili just really tries to just wrestle with her, and Lemos spends a ton of time on her back just trying to get off the ground, I think that this is a fight that could go pretty much either way, which is why I'm inclined to like Lemos as a, you know, over 2-1 underdog. She's plus 250 right now. If you want to get really frisky and think about her maybe being able to catch Weili with a counter, I don't hate taking Lemos at 5-1 to win by KO TKO.
I think if you like Lemos, then you have to like her to win by KO.
Have to.
Like she's not gonna win by decision, and she's not gonna win in the clinch because Weili's too good. And Lemos is not strong off her back at all. Her scrambling isn't strong either. It's not like she is good at just kind of avoiding it once she gets taken down, avoiding some sort of takedown. Like if Weili, now the thing with Weili is she is aggressive. So, you know, she likes those spinning kicks. It leaves her open. She is open to a counter. So, I mean, from a betting perspective, if you like Lemos, I think you have to like the 5-1 KO. That's the only way I think she wins. Although, you know, Patrick, we say that, and then all of a sudden it'll be like Lemos by decision or something. Right. And it'll just like, I don't know. It's like really kind of frustrating. We sit here and say there's only one way Lemos can win, and then she like wins by decision. That happened last week with kind of an upset win by decision as well.
Yeah, absolutely.
So, you know, I mean, it happens, but I like Weili here because I think that this goes to the ground pretty quick. Now, before we get to Sterling and O'Malley, and this is actually, I think, a really fun one. Dad, why don't you tell us a little bit more about Healthy Cell and some of the products that our listeners can use there?
Well, listen, I do the REM sleep. I already talked about that. I'll tell you the other thing. I know you guys make fun of me. I'm getting a little long of the tooth here. I got a lot of aches and pains, got a lot of moving going on. And a couple weeks ago, I couldn't pick up my Beard Vet coffee cup. I couldn't do push-ups anymore. I couldn't do anything. My arm hurt so bad. And so I talked to Dr. Jim Papa, and he turned me on to Joint Health and Mobility, which is a little gel pack. And I started taking them. It took me about under 2 weeks, 12 days. Pain in the arm goes away. Pain in my back, which is chronic. I live on 2 Aleve a day. I haven't taken an Aleve now in about a month. So I still got the same bottle. I got bottles of Aleve strategically placed all over the place, in my bag, in my shaving kit, in the car, in the glove compartment, because my back hurts all the time because I'm just, a big guy and I'm 665. Since I've been taking this, I feel great. Mom's taking it now. It took her about 3 weeks. Go to healthycell.com/Godzilla, promo code Godzilla, get the Joint Health and Mobility. You're going to get 20% off. Took Ann 3, depends on your body. But this stuff, if you've got those nagging aches and pains and you're getting a little long of the tooth, whatever, this thing is like a godsend, and it's all natural, anti-inflammatory. So check this out, healthycell.com, Joint Health and Mobility, promo code Godzilla, 20% off. Healthy Cell, sponsor of the Godzilla Wins Show. And look, they know a lot of people watching us now. You got those just nagging aches and pains, and after a while you kind of forget about them. You just take Aleve and Advil. This thing is going to solve it. Check this out. Joint Health and Mobility, healthycell.com.
I'm 33 years old, and probably my entire life I've seen you take Aleve. I think you've been doing that basically since I've been alive. I don't know if your listeners know this, but you, when you were younger, were a good athlete. You played college baseball, and you kept in really good shape, and you worked out all the time. You did a lot of weightlifting, and Aleve was just like one of those things. You played in adult baseball leagues as well, and it was just like one of those things that you do for sore joints as you start to get a little bit older, especially in your 40s. So the fact that this product has gotten you off Aleve is pretty incredible, because it's not like you've been taking it for 5 years or something. You've been taking it probably 30, 40 years now, all the time. So that's really good to hear. Now, let's get, Patrick, to Sterling versus O'Malley. We got about 8 minutes here, and I'm so psyched for this fight because these guys are weird. O'Malley specifically, just the way he fights, super weird. So this is another title fight. I believe this is the bantamweight title fight. Sterling holds the belt. O'Malley, an interesting challenger. Patrick, what do you see in both of these fight styles?
Well, the fight styles are pertaining to O'Malley. He's a very unorthodox, goofy type of stand-up guy. He's got knockout power. First and foremost, let me say this. He did not beat Peter Yan. To me, I don't think O'Malley should be here. I think this is a political setup. Aljamain Sterling has issues with UFC brass. They don't like him. They don't want him there, which I generally never, ever bring up because the UFC is a brand. They don't need anybody. So generally, they don't care who their world champion is. I am going to say that I think this is a different case. Sterling has gone through everybody, fought much tougher competition than O'Malley ever has. O'Malley hasn't had to go through everybody. He was given a win against Peter Yan to say he earned his title shot. He hasn't gone through Cejudo. I don't think he really should be here. With that being said, Sterling is a huge guy. He is a very, very big guy. He's cutting from 170 pounds down to 135. People will say O'Malley's doing the same thing. You look at their physiques, they're entirely different. One is a thoroughbred, one is a very lanky fighter. You can't pick one over the other just by body types. What I will say, though, is Aljamain Sterling dominated Henry Cejudo on the ground, who's an Olympic gold medalist, former world champion, 2 different weight classes. I don't think O'Malley's got the kind of juice he needs to keep Aljamain Sterling off of him. I don't think he should be there. I think Sterling's got a much, much better ground game. I think he's going to suffocate him out on the ground. And I think he's going to beat him by TKO. That's what I think.
So you're right about the Sterling O'Malley setup. Like, Sterling fought Yan in April, and we're here in August and he's defending his title. Just for reference, if we just think about someone else who won a title about around that time. Alexa Grasso won in March, and she's scheduled to defend her title against Shevchenko in September. So I mean, he's had enough time, but it's pretty soon to be defending the title to O'Malley. Now, Nate,
I'll tell you what happened though, is that after he beat Cejudo, they threw him right back out there again.
Yeah.
Okay. They're looking to get a worn down, beat up guy with injuries to lose. That's what they're looking for in this. That's O'Malley's only way to this. That's what I think. And I'm a conspiracy theorist, fine, but that's what I think.
I think you're probably right. I mean, what's weird about Sterling is he's so good in the clinch. He's a backpack. And I mean, he's a champion wrestler. And if you get, I mean, I think you're right about O'Malley. Like if this goes to the ground, I think this is over in like, this is one of those things where it escalates and it's over in like 8 seconds the minute it gets to the ground, because he is so good on the ground and O'Malley is not. I mean, that's just not his style. Nate,
Jack, but Sterling is a lead blanket on the ground too. The guy doesn't wait movement, and he is going to wear you out before he decides how to beat you. So it could, I completely understand. He's got the submission skills to actually do it in 8 seconds. You saw what he did to Sandhagen. It's very, very easy, very quick. He may not want to do it that fast because these guys generally do not like each other.
Yeah.
And if it were me and I had him stuck on the ground, I'd beat him half to death for 5 rounds.
Yeah. Nate, do you see a way Sterling wins here? I mean, again, you love these underdogs sometimes.
I don't find a way that O'Malley wins here. It's funny.
I'm sorry,
I was sort of putting together my talking points, and I wasn't. Normally, I'm not the tinfoil hat guy, but I was actually going to bring up my conspiracy theory about Sean O'Malley, which is like they basically. He's basically only been fed strikers for most of his career, right? Guys that he can outstrike, guys that he's a little bit longer than. I'm not saying that the script is written for the fights, but I'm saying that the UFC knew what they've been doing in scheduling him to get to this point, is how it seemed to me looking at his past fights. And Sterling is not a guy that the UFC would probably like to put against someone like Sean O'Malley, because Sean O'Malley draws so many eyeballs and Sterling does not. He's just not that he's not as much of like a just over the top personality as O'Malley is.
He doesn't put butts in the seats.
That he wins isn't as exciting because he just mauls people on the ground, right? He just ragdolled Henry Cejudo for like the last fight just over and over again. So, and that's not something that people love. They love the sort of flashy striking. So there's a large part of me that thinks like this is, probably not O'Malley's preferred thing. I think it's fair to wonder if, they're trotting Sterling out, a little bit too fast after his fight. But there's really nobody better at wrestling than Sterling that's fighting. I mean, the only guys that are probably close are like Islam, fighting at lightweight.
Yeah.
So I think that this is probably Sterling's fight. I think that he's a pretty hefty favorite. He's like 260-ish right now, minus 260-ish. If I was looking to bet it, which I am always, I tend to lean towards taking Sterling inside the distance. It's basically an even money bet at that point. It's, maybe plus 105, plus 110, wherever you're betting at. I think that he probably finishes him inside the distance. I don't really want to bet, the submission prop, because if Sterling just locks up O'Malley, he might break O'Malley's leg before he taps. That's just kind of the personality that he has, I think. And that would be a TKO finish. So I don't love the submission, but I think that Sterling wins this inside the distance. I think the skills just don't match up.
Yeah, I mean, everybody likes Sterling inside the distance is a popular thing that I'm seeing. The only bet that I think I would make that's a little off the beaten track now that we're talking about it is over 3.5 rounds, just because one, Sterling likes to maul, like we said, and then two, the thing with O'Malley is people have been saying he's really been working on his scrambling. And I don't know if that's going to be if we're going to see that in this fight, but I mean, if he can sneak out of some of those situations, get back up on his feet, Sterling, I don't think he's going to get caught with some sort of counter and go down as a knockout. But maybe the over 3.5 rounds is kind of an interesting play. But I mean, I think y'all are pretty right. I think we're going to see Sterling as the champ here after maybe 2-3 rounds of this crazy submissions. O'Malley's just not there, but he is fun. I mean, that's why people like him. He's got crazy hair and he's got a weird style. He's lengthy and he likes to punch. So we should see. Look, this is a big card, UFC 292. So we'll be excited. We'll be back next week to talk UFC. We want to thank Patrick Assalone, as always, our fight guy. We want to thank John Fredericks, my father, the Godzilla of Truth, for being here with us. Sheriff David Clarke, Dan Angell, and of course, Nate Perry, the senior editor at GodzillaWins.com. Thanks for a great show, everybody. We will be back next week with the same energy.